Dear students, this is my second online class on the subject Contemporary Political Theory. Today, I will speak on behavioralism. At the end of my lecture, you will be able to understand what is behavioralism, the historical reason, factors that led to the coming of behavioralism, characteristics of behavioralism, and finally, the limitations of behavioralism. Dear students, let's first talk on what is behavioralism. You know, it is quite very much difficult to precisely define behavioralism because it has been used as an umbrella by the behavioral political scientists to record their protest for the rejection of traditional political theory or approach. Even during its heydays, it was quite very much difficult to define by a large number of political scientists. But, dear student, if we are still to define uh, behavioralism, in short, it refers to an orientation emphasis to the study of political social phenomena which is characterized mainly by empiricism. So what do you know about empiricism? It is the philosophical doctrine that knowledge derived from experience, the application of empirical methods in any arts or science, local positivism. And now, again, what do you understand or know about this local positivism? So, I will tell you equality or state characterized by certainty or acceptance or affirmation and dogmatic assertiveness. And we continue. So, add cross interdisciplinary interest in sociology, psychology, history, etc., etc. Now, behavioralism tries to examine the behavior, actions, and acts of individual rather than focusing on the characteristics of institutions such as legislature, executive, and judiciaries. The striking point of political behavioralism is that behavioralists seek to examine the behavior, actions, and acts of individual. It is a political approach that change the traditional political theory or approach in terms of objective, quantify approach. What quantify approach you can say is the approach express as a number, measure, or quantity to express and predict political behavior. Behavioralism even claim it can explain political behavior from an unbiased, neutral point of view. So the key tenets of behavioralism, we can point out 3 points of the tenets of behavioralism. The first, of course, is the study of human behavior, and second is the empirical scientific method of research. No, so now, what do you know about the empirical scientific method of research? So it is a method based on experiment and observation rather than theory. And number 3 point is the interdisciplinary focus, and number 4 is the scientific theory building. So what do you know about the scientific theory building? It is the making sense. It is building models or theory about how things work. Now, Now, after the Second World War, there was deep dissatisfaction with the nature, scopes, method, and conclusion of the traditional political science and the method of investigation of the traditional political science. So this turned into a revolution in the 1930s, first in the United States of America. This revolution was characterized as the behavioral revolutions or behavioral approach or behavioralism. So the late development of political science as an autonomous scientific discipline in American university too was another factors for the growth of behavioralism. Not only this, there are numbers of other factors that contribute to the development of behavioralism. Now, Robert Dahl analyzes what the factor, I mean, the rapid development of behavioralism in the United States of America. uh, he believed at least five specific interrelated quite powerful stimuli, so which were responsible or the factors for the growth of behavioralism. Uh, According to him, what he believes to be the five stimuli for the growth of behavioralism are, the first is what or social scientists, particularly the ideas and efforts of Charles Merriam, and secondly, migrations or several European sociologists and psychologists up to the United States of America. And third, the work done by Social Science Research Council, SSRC, and a fourth, impacts of the Second World War. Number five, and the last is the American Philanthropic Foundation. In fact, all these factors, coupled with many others, of course, came to function in the decades of 1954s. So, dear student, now what are the characteristics of behavioralism? In order to know the characteristics of behavioralism, we have to see the views of several eminent scholars. But due to time limits, we will see David East, Truman and David Easton's view on the behavioralism, and that is how we are going to defines and understood the characteristics of behavioralism. So David Truman defined political behavioralism as the science of political behavior. No, he wrote that well, political behavior means uh, all those actions and interactions of men and groups which are involved in the process of governing. Sorry. At the maximum, this conception brings under the rubrics of political behavior and human activity, which can be said to be part of the governing. For this, it is clear that uh, David Truman, specified that behavioralism stand for two features. So the first is research must be systematic, and it must place primary emphasis upon empirical methods. So now, coming to David Aston, he identified eight major characteristics of behavioralism. These eight characteristics are, first, regularities, meaning that there are discoverable uniformities in political behavior. And secondly, verification, meaning that validity of generalization must be testable. It must be testable in principle by reference to relevant behavior. And number three, quantification, meaning precision. Sorry, precision and precision in the recording of data and the statement of finding requires measurement and quantification, not to their own sake, but only where possible, relevant, and meaningful in the light of other objectives. And number four, value, meaning that ethical evaluation and empirical explanation involve two different kinds of proposition that for the sake of clarity should be kept analytically distinct. And number five, we have this technique means for acquiring and interpreting data cannot be taken for granted. They are problematic and needs to be examined, self consciously refined and validated. And now we have this number six, systematization, meaning that research ought to be systematic, that theory and research are to be seen as closely intertwined part of a coherent and orderly body of knowledge. And number seven, we have the pure science, that meaning the applications of knowledge is as much a part of the scientific enterprises as theoretical understanding. And number eight, we have the integration, meaning the recognition of the relationship have to bring political science back to its status of the earlier century and return to the main form of the social sciences. Now, dear student, on the basis of the or this description of the characteristics and assumption of behavioralism, it is now crystal clear that behavioralism study politics as an aspect of human behavior within or in a framework of reference common to the sources science and prescribe the use of empirical research, mathematical, uh, sta- statis- statis- statistical commons to the other social sciences, and prescribes the use of empirical research, uh, mathematical, statistical, uh, quantification technique of data collection and analysis with the purpose of building scientific theory, uh, political behavior. Now, before we wind up, dear student, before we wind up our online class, let's also talk on the criticism of behavioralism. There is criticisms of behavioralism. Let's see the main points of criticism against this behavioralism. Before before others, I will just straight point goes to the first point, that is that human behavior as the object of study is bound to be problematic and even fruitless. And secondly, human behavior cannot be observed and stated in empirical generalization. And number three, behavioralism makes political science dependent upon the other social sciences, particularly psychology, sociology, and anthropology. And number four, we have this behavioral advocacy or study of fact to be to the exclusion of values. It's neither possible nor desirable. even can it be useful. And number five, the differences among the behavioralists have tended to reduce it to congeries of several views, both related and unrelated from one another's. And number six, the scientific method, particularly as used in natural sciences, cannot be applied to social sciences, particularly political science. So number seven, behavioralists were obsessed with methods and techniques, and they fail to concentrate upon the substance of politics. And number eight, that behavioralism reflected a bias in favor for liberal democratic system, since empirical research can uh, can be can be really possible only in such systems. And number nine, we have this behavioralists in their passion for scientism had created a ridiculous complication jargon. That is about the a behavioralist patient that's creating a ridiculous, complicated jargon. And number 10, we have the value neutral preach and practice, but the behavioralist was this time heading towards to make it a less relevant theory of human political behavior. Number 11, the behaviorists also failed to make real headway towards the professed objective of theory building. They remain lost in trivial. It means research and fail to come to grip with the brute realities of politics. So, dear student, in conclusion, I would like to make remarks that despite of behavioralism having limitation and points of criticism, it cannot be denied the fact that behavioralism has played a heuristic role, guided investigation and the development of the discipline. The behavioralists can legitimately claim credit for inducing, popularizing, and improving the scientific method of social science research and the use of statistical and mathematical techniques in the discipline. That's the end of today lecture session. Wait for the next class. Thank you very much, and please stay at home. Thank you.